really love finding a really awesome plant buy at a really random store where you're not expecting it, you know? And so I found this palm tree that is really nice and big, but there's two of them planted inside of it on the side of the road. So that needs to be divided. I also found this peace lily that is absolutely enormous and so pretty. This giant peace lily, and I was just blown away. I was like, yes, you are coming home with me, because I've been meaning to get a peace lily, but I just haven't gotten one yet. Oh, I just love how huge this is. This is like my happy little house Eden sized peace lily, and it doesn't have any flowers on him right now, but oh, I take that back. There's one tiny one right here that I just saw for the first time looking over him. But I love finding stuff like this at really random places. Like these ones were found at Walmart. Super random, but gorgeous, and I love them still. And so with this palm, we're going to take him apart and separate the two palms from each other and then plant them in their own plants. I'm not going to do anything with this peace lily today because making a video of taking apart this palm will take most of my day. So that'll be what we do today. And then later we'll maybe take a look at this enormous peace lily. It's just so gorgeous. I mean, when you find something like this, I always look at the dirt too. This one needs more dirt, like it must have like fallen off the shelf and it's kind of got roots on the top exposed. So we'll need to just top him off with some dirt, but this is a very healthy plant. I check the dirt to make sure there's no bugs, there's no mold, there's nothing weird in the plant at all, because I don't want to bring home problems. I have a lot of houseplants, and the last thing I need to do is bring home a problem that kills everybody, you know? So I make sure that my plants that I bring home are in good shape before I bring them home, and that they're beautiful, but you can still find really cool finds like this at random places. And so let's take care of this palm tree. Let's take them apart and see what we have inside. I decided to split up these two palm trees because, man, is this palm tree root bound. I've already just barely started trying to divvy it up, but it's like there's not much dirt, it's all roots. So the palm tree will do much better after I untangle this disaster root. But it's doing good now. Flora, don't chew on it. But it will do so much better once it's separated. Okay, here we go. I separated all of the dirt and I managed to get these two palms separated. They were planted right on top of each other, as you can see by this stressed piece was right next to this piece, to the point where I had to do some research to make sure. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is its own palm and this is its own palm, but the way they were smashed together made them look almost like one palm. But okay, so now we have clearly a smaller palm and a bigger palm. Set that down for a second. And it was extremely root bound in its pot, so now that it has half as much root ball basically in its pot, I can plant this guy back in, and it will be sad for a little bit because it always is a shock to the roots, but it'll be okay in the end. So now we'll have two palms because they can't grow together in the same soil when they're obviously this root bound. It would take a giant pot because these pots are already pretty good size and I'm going to put it in. This is already a pretty good size pot. So it's like a 10-inch probably diameter pot. It's pretty big already, so, and I don't have bigger pots, so I separated them out from each other. I'm going to put good dirt in here and plant this palm back in a new pot. And I'm excited about this because this palm is so big. Like, it's huge. Very, very big palm, which I cannot seem to get the whole thing on video. I only got about half of him in the screen, but he is very, very, very tall. So that'll be nice to have in the house. Okay, we have palm number 1, the smaller one, fully potted now. So this one will live very happily. It has space for its roots. It will start to establish some really good roots in here, but for the next week or so, it's probably going to start to droop and start to look a little sad. Because when you mess with the roots to the level that I messed with the roots, you're going to cause your plant to be a little bit sad and need some time to recover from what you've done by messing with it so much. But in the end, in the long run, this palm will grow so much better because we fixed the root problem. And this palm is so tall, it's probably, yeah, it's very tall. Okay, so we'll set this guy aside. There we go. And we will start potting our big pot, our other tree. There's another palm, and it has a big root, but I do not have a bigger pot. So unfortunately, this guy is going to have to be potted kind of tight. And his roots are really big right now because I just untangled him, and it was all wrapped really tightly spiraled around. When a plant, so basically if I smash it up like this, it was that tight, round ball at the bottom. So when you pull a plant out of its pot and you look at it like this and it has roots that are going all the way around in circles, then that plant was obviously root bound and was way too tightly planted. So I make his roots really long, but to fit him in the pot, I'm still gonna have to kind of smush his roots a little bit because I don't have a giant pot anymore. I've used them all. So this guy I'm gonna kind of stuff him in. And then at some point I will get another giant pot from the store. So he was in this pot before, but these two were both in it together. So because it's just going to be one, I feel like he'll be okay for a while. And then from the garden center start getting some bigger pots again, because it's still only February, so there's not really a whole lot of garden stuff right now. But once it starts to become like time where everybody's like, ooh, I want to plant things, I want it to be spring, you know, that's when I'll find a big pot. So he just has to live in this pot for a few months and he'll be okay. Because I'm sure by April or so, he'll be able to go in a big pot. Okay. The hard thing with transplanting something like this that's super tall is that it tips over. You need to have like 4 hands to hold him in place and to pour the dirt. I'm trying not to make a mess, but I always do. Always make a mess anyway. So for us right now, it is still winter. There's still snow all over, and it's been cold, but we have had our coldest week of the year. We always have a really, really cold week. I like to pour from the bag into a pot that has a bottom, so I can get the dirt all loosened up like this, all the clumps out of it, and then I can just pour it in. Just makes it so much easier, and I can get it in so much better. But yeah, so we've already had our coldest week of the year, where our nightly lows were about -6 degrees Fahrenheit. And we got all of our snow. We usually have about a week every winter that it gets pretty cold like that. And then the rest of the winter, we're right around freezing during the day, and then about 20 degrees colder at night. So it's usually in the teens at night, and then about 30, mid-20s to 30 degrees during the day until most of winter's over, and I absolutely love winter, and I know a lot of people that hate winter, especially if they are really into gardening, because they can't garden in the winter, it's all snow covered, it's just not the same, you know, or people who just like it to be sunny and warm. But I love the snow, I love the cold. Winter is a good time for me. I feel like I can just rest and be happy and do the things I want. And then when it gets super hot, the only thing I have going to make it through the heat of the summer is my garden. I am not a hot weather person. I am a cold weather person, but I do love to garden. So summer is still nice. So in days like this, when we have snow and cold temperatures, I like to get my hands in the dirt and transplant things. Put my plants, take care of my house plants. I've done everything I can outside until the season changes, so inside we go. That went really well. This guy planted very nicely. Get the last of this. Planted in there, because this pot actually sits inside this one, because you want your houseplants to have drain holes. And these pots, I don't mind how these look. I don't think they're that bad. I like having a lot of black pots like this, but putting him inside of another pot is always nicer. And I realized I grabbed the wrong one. This one is too big. So, well, that's embarrassing. Good thing I don't really care. Oh my gosh. Did I just get him stuck? No! This is where an extra set of hands would really come in handy. Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. Well, we want to be real, right? So problems happen. Mistakes happen. You get the giant pot stuck. This guy goes in here. Yeah, the smaller one goes inside this pretty pot. So now he's all set, because drain holes are very important. We want the plants to drain. We don't want them to root out, like rot out at the bottom. Oh gosh, there we go. And this guy, he's probably 4 feet tall just by himself. But there we go. Now we have nice, lovely, planted up houseplants. So even though it's a lot of work and it's really frustrating to have to untangle all the roots and to separate plants, it's always worth it in the end. If you separate them and you untangle them, then they will grow better in the pot you put them in. Otherwise, they'll just eventually die. They're going to starve each other. They're going to fight for the nutrients, and they're not going to survive. So even though it's kind of scary, just start slow, take it out of its pot, and see all the root bound. Just start to kind of wiggle your fingers in it and get all the dirt to fall out. Once all the dirt falls out, it's so much easier to separate the roots and to get the roots planted into another plant. So start teasing it off, get all the dirt off, then slowly untangle this giant spaghetti ball of roots. And then as you get going, just don't rip. Little ones, there's going to be casualties. There's going to be these little, I have some of these little tiny roots that clearly broke off, okay? But I didn't lose the ones that were as big as my pinky finger, because palm trees have some big roots, and then they have little ones like that off the sides. And so you don't want to break those big ones. You want to try to break no roots if you can, but I don't think that ever really works. I mean, in theory, that's nice, but in practice, something always breaks. It's just never going to be perfect. But if you can get them separated, you can get all the dirt out of it, you can put them into a pot, you can shake the dirt on top and kind of stuff it in as you plant it, then you will get all of that dirt back in with those roots. And then I'm going to water it kind of heavy at first, just to make sure all of the dirt gets wet. And then if I have air pockets, the dirt will make like sinkholes on top of the plant on here. I'll get some like low spots and be like, ooh, I did not get dirt in there. There must have been an air pocket. And then I'll just put some dirt on top. But I won't water heavy every time. I'm just doing that to make sure that I don't have any air pockets. So that there's not, you need air in the roots. You don't want it hard packed. The plant will suffocate if it doesn't have any oxygen. in the roots, but you don't want it to be basically hardly filled at all, that if you water it, like the dirt line drops like 2 inches, you know. So watering it after is, one, it's good because the roots need some water because they've just been messed with, and two, it'll be good to make sure that you did a good job planting it, and then it's not going to just keep struggling, you know. So, and yeah, that's how we can do some transplanting for our houseplants, and houseplants are fun. They give us something to do in the winter time when we can't garden anything outside. And I personally love how they make the house feel. I like the feeling of the air right around the plants. They have that kind of cooler, more humid air, and I love that. It's my favorite part in the nursery, when you walk in and you breathe in all of that fresh planty air. It's the best. So houseplants are one of my favorites, and then when we go outside into the garden, that'll be really nice, and I'm excited to get the garden going and making it all beautiful again. But houseplants is also a good step into gardening, because you can practice growing things and seeing how you do, and you can grow food, vegetables, and fruits, and, well, not really, well, okay, I do have some Meyer lemon trees growing in my house as well, and I do have a little orange tree growing as well, so you can grow fruits inside too, but for the most part, you're going to grow vegetables of some kind inside, or little strawberry plants or things like that. Like when I first started gardening, we lived in a second-story apartment, and I couldn't garden outside because I didn't have any ground outside. I was in an apartment, so I set up, and we were poor students. My husband and I were poor students in, he was finishing up college, and so I set up an ironing board next to our window that was on the south side, and slid my couch up against it, put like a little pretty tablecloth over that ironing board, so it looked like a nice little shelf, and then I put all of my houseplants on that little shelf. I grew strawberries, and even though I didn't have any ground outside, I still got 5 little strawberries off that plant every year, and it was fun to watch it grow in the house and sit by it on the couch. It was out of the way, it wasn't going to get messed with, but it was still going to grow. So there are lots of ways you can grow things, even in small spaces, if you don't have anything outside, and I think houseplants is a good step in that direction, kind of get your feet wet, you know, and you get a nice reward of this gorgeous thing in your house growing that you kept alive. So win-win, kind of a fun thing. So yep, once the weather starts to warm up, we'll get outside into the garden. Until then, we'll be doing some houseplant stuff. Until I see you guys again,